Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Rotoworld Football Podcast. I'm Josh Norris. That's Sean Daigle. That's Ian Hartitz. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Doing great, Josh. How are you?
We're sharing the same spotlight, Ian and I, because we're dressed similarly as well, so
Yes.
we might as well just get it all out right now.
Is this Black Monday?
I guess so.
Man, can we talk about how corporations ruined Black Friday? I used to love that. I'd wake up 3 a.m., go get myself a new laptop or something, and now all the sales start at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving. And I'm not about to ruin my best holiday of the year to go save some money.
That's exactly when you eat all your
Wait.
meals at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's ruined because you don't have to leave the house anymore? We can just do it online?
I'm saying I miss like standing in the snow, like
Why?
doorbuster items that
Who would miss this?
like they used to be like, all right, these 10 like we have.
Is it Toys R Us when you were 12?
No, they did it like with laptops and TVs and stuff. Like, there's 10 only at this store. Like, whoever wants it bad enough can come here and get it. Now they're like, same deal, but you're gonna have to miss the Cowboys game if you want to get.
Show
this.
off your wrestling skills, trying to wrestle away those blenders that are $20 off that you could just get online for $20 off anyways.
Okay.
You won't hear this one from me just because I prefer just to do everything online anyways. I don't need the whole video recording of people fighting over sneakers and TVs.
No,
and
it's an awful
fighting
holiday.
over like $150 TVs. Like they're gonna be. It's just fine. Don't worry
Sorry.
about it. It's
How
only
rich?
$175 normally. You're not saving.
How rich?
Saving 5%. You're fine.
Well, guys, I'm great. Thanks for asking.
How are you doing?
I'm
Josh?
good. I'm actually really nervous. I'm
you
really
nervous?
nervous. Today, I mean, this is going to post after this match already happens, but my soccer club,
Oh, God, who
Aston Villa,
cares?
is in a pivotal.
Beta sport.
Is it playoffs?
No, it's like half the season to go.
Okay.
But they are right above the relegation
It's
line.
football season.
Is it?
Who cares?
So
It
I'm
is
not,
football.
No. I do care. I'm not shunning it. But
I
I'm
don't.
curious. Is it like the NBA regular season where it doesn't matter at all?
No, because the regular season is all that there is. There is no playoffs. Does that make sense?
But if they play all year, they play like 365 games. Does it matter?
No, they don't play 365
How many
games.
games
They play 38 matches.
Because there's only they only play 38 matches, but they play for
38
like 8
matches.
months.
Yeah, because then there's only
How does
one
that make
match per
sense?
week, basically.
See, that's when I'll start watching baseball again. Is when they have a 16-game season. Then I'll be back into baseball.
Do you like baseball more than soccer?
No, I watch replays of NFL games because I care about my job and I care about the only sport that matters.
I was once that way.
I love how that's all we could do, though.
The
Like,
Premier
it's either
League- the
watch
Premier
replay of
League-
football and do nothing else, or watch other sports.
Exactly.
The Premier League is the best league in all of sports across the world.
Keep telling yourself that.
But anyways, big match. Hopefully they come out on top. I've got a little baby Jack Grealish on my chest. Little baby Jack Grealish.
I'm rooting for you. I
Thank you.
have no problem.
My
against
happiness, that's what you're rooting
Yeah.
for.
You're my
Okay,
friend.
today is our Big Picture podcast, as you always know. That's how we start off the weeks. If you want to go back and listen to the wrap-ups and recaps of every game from the weekend, go and do that. It's the previous episode. It's about an hour. It was an awful slate.
We,
of
yeah,
Week
I'm saying
12.
we made it as exciting as possible, but boy, whenever the biggest talking point out of Week 12 is Jason Garrett's coaching decisions, that's when you know it's overall a miserable week.
Well,
miserable.
But this week we can pitch it as, hey, we watched every game, so you don't have to. Don't waste your time going back and watching replays of bad football. Instead, just listen to this podcast.
Exactly.
But again, we do start off with these big top-down look, I guess the best way to do it, picture look at the NFL. And let's start off, I always talk about how the NFL is like 4 to 5 week seasons, and you can kind of look at these little chunks of time. And I had some thoughts that now, looking back on previous conclusions that we had, that they turned out to be false. Like ideas that we were super confident in have just unproven themselves. And if you guys have any more you want to add at the end of this, please let me know. Let's start off with this first one. Drew Brees doesn't have an arm anymore. This is a idea that even going back to like 2017 and 2018, and it was proven true, right, Ian, that this New Orleans Saints team does not throw down the field, yet we saw against the Carolina Panthers that his vertical arm was a major asset and was really one of the reasons why they won that football game.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone was saying he couldn't necessarily get the ball downfield, but he definitely was not doing it anywhere near as often as he did in the past. I mean, even when Teddy Bridgewater was out there and we're calling him Teddy Checkdown, making fun of his next-gen charts and all this, I mean, we had to note that Brees was also, like, he's a check-down quarterback most of the time. But guess what? When you're Drew freaking Brees, defenses are giving you more respect in the secondary than they are for Teddy Bridgewater. So it didn't matter. When you have two amazing route runners like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, you can make do. But Week 12, great reminder, I think, not only for the Saints, but just for defenses around the league that, yeah, he can still get the ball downfield. I mean, Teddy Ginn could have had a deep 40-yard catch, went just off his hands. He did get a good one. Jared Cook down the seam. I mean, weeks 1 through 11, which was about 5 games for Brees, he only attempted 9 passes over 20 yards downfield. He had 8 alone yesterday. So I don't know if that's going to continue week in and week out, but it's a good reminder. And now we got, again, 2 of the more talented route runners in the league to work and hopefully more spacious underneath areas.
So let me ask you, because I haven't rewatched this game yet. I just saw the email this morning, and I watched a few last night, but not this one.
I was assigned to it.
Not this one in particular, yes. So let me ask you, because I know you both have seen it so far. How did the absences of Pete, and then he lost another offensive
Teron
lineman
Armstead.
game? Yeah. So how did he look after that? Like, did it affect him that much?
It did not, and I think one reason is that the Panthers' pass rush at times is just non-existent. And whereas, to start the season, we thought the Panthers' defense might be one of the better units across the NFL, it has completely tanked despite the personnel not shifting that much. But Teron Armstead was carted off the sideline, which is a major deal. We've seen how that offensive line can break down without him because he's one of the best left tackles in the league. Then obviously Andrews Pete might have stepped into that tackle spot, but he was absent and is a starting guard himself. Drew Brees was he was surgical. He was exactly what you want at peak Drew Brees from a few years ago. And I would argue, Ian, that some people have said, and I think Pat is one of them, not throwing him under the bus, saying that Drew Brees just can't throw down the field anymore. This is an offense that truly is, though, as you mentioned, built around Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara underneath, and adding Jared Cook, who's like channeling New Orleans Jimmy Graham right now.
Good.
But this team has needed like one little moment or one little spark to kind of take them over the top and be the cream of the crop of the NFC or a top 2 team in the NFC. And Drew Brees, 30 of 39, 311 yards and 3 touchdowns, 6 completions of 15 yards or more against that Carolina Panthers defense. It's one note that I think we can look back on, and if the Saints do make the Super Bowl, that could be one reason why, because I think plays can still be made in that area of the field that haven't been in previous years.
Yeah, I think we saw the last few weeks, too, and then this Falcons game in particular, where the Saints offense was sputtering a little bit. So having this good of a performance really is good moving forward because, Patriots, I'm still waiting for them to kind of have that performance where it's an offense that has been elite year in, year out, not so much this year. Saints, same way to, I think, a lesser extent. They were still pretty good throughout the early parts of the year. But, yeah, if they can hit their stride now, look out.
And really, we've only seen Drew Brees for 5 games this year. He basically left one in the first half because of that thumb injury. Just 5 games of Drew Brees is nothing. And, some people are going to point to how this game was basically lost by the Panthers because of a missed 28-yard field goal plus 2 missed extra points by Joey Sly. But look, even if the Panthers make that field goal towards the end of the game, you don't think with 2 minutes and a timeout in his pocket, Drew Brees is going to drive down the field and not just settle for a field goal and get into the end zone? Yes, he could easily have done that.
Sure.
He's that type of quarterback that is one of the best in the league at managing those 1 minute, 2 minute situations. And again, just adding this little extra that they might with this vertical passing can really benefit this team.
And Marshawn Lattimore, I'm assuming DJ Moore wouldn't have been as successful if he was out there. So it could have been a different game altogether for Drew Brees.
If we want to nitpick individual things with it, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, the other one that I wanted to bring up, there was a time in this season when Aaron Jones was being compared to 2018 Todd Gurley because of his usage. There was a 5-game stretch where he averaged 14 carries per game, 7 targets per game. Well, guess what's happened in the last 3 games? It's totally tanked. 11 carries and 1 target in that span. Like he's averaging, again, 11 carries and 1 target. 4 total targets in those 3 games against the Chargers, the Carolina Panthers, and the San Francisco 49ers. What have you seen watching this Packers team?
It is inexcusable that in the 5 games without Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers averaged 335 yards, and then in his last 3, he's averaged 166 with Adams back. Aaron Jones' target share, as you said, he was leading the team in targets in that span as a Todd Gurley-like back. That was his role. But then his past 3 games, like you said, 1 target, a 4% target share. And I think that has somewhat tanked Aaron Rodgers as well because getting the backs involved was an extremely efficient way for this offense to attack. As we said in that big Aaron Jones game on primetime, I believe it was, how he finished in next-gen stats, finished with the most yards from outside as a wide receiver, as a running back ever since they've been tracking stats. It's just he's such an explosive player. So to not use him in the passing game, not even full-time, let's not even talk about for fantasy purposes. I think it's worse for your team, obviously, if you aren't even integrating him whatsoever now.
Yeah. It's just been it's a mix, I think, of them not doing enough to get Jones those types of touches that he can thrive with as a true receiver. And also, it's just, he's a committee back, and he has been the whole year. I mean, Jamal Williams has 15 targets over the last 3 weeks. I think we'd all agree Jones is more dangerous as a receiver. But, when Jamal Williams is healthy, Aaron Jones plays between 40 and 60% of the snaps every single week. So, I would expect these to even out a little bit. But with that said, I mean, we've kind of been talking about this most season.
For years.
Yes, okay, for that. But I mean, like this season in particular, I don't know that we're going to see a consistent number 2 pass game option emerge opposite Davante Adams. He's getting fed his targets, but really nothing. I mean, none of these wide receivers. I would like it to be Jones. Jones was their leader in targets before Adams came back. I mean, we saw the offense when they were ripping off 27-plus points per game, in that stretch, and it looked like they were all the way back. Everything looked great, but I mean, as long as they keep pretending that Williams is the same kind of caliber talent as Jones, I think it's going to limit this offense.
What can we attribute this to? Because is it as simple as saying when they go up against solid defenses, this offense just can't function to what we hoped it could? Because, again, we talked about it with the Chargers. The Packers were dominating that game, only scored 11 points. Aaron Rodgers, on 35 attempts, only got up to 161 passing yards. And then that allowed me to think, okay, the San Francisco 49ers can do the exact same thing. He had 104 passing yards and a touchdown on 33 attempts by putting up only 8 points. Whereas before that, there was, a 4-game stretch against Dallas, Detroit, Oakland, Kansas City. Defenses were not really concerned about, where they just put up monster numbers. Can it be really that simple? Because they're going to face those big-time defenses when they get to the playoffs. And there were moments this year where we thought the Packers and Matt LaFleur had figured out there was an identity because they didn't have one in Tennessee with Matt LaFleur. And I'm not sure if they have one right now.
Well, I thought they would have it figured out because they had 14 days to game plan with blueprints for success, since the Cardinals had really attacked efficiently the Niners defense in that span, but didn't. Like we saw the Packers offense, it completely stalled out despite having that extra time. So we may not find out over the next couple weeks. The Giants and Washington are up next for the Packers, but I would say that now we need to see them truly in an above-average matchup, because right now we don't have faith that they can succeed in those matchups.
Yeah, it's tough to move the ball against good defenses. I don't think too crazy to say that, but I don't know. I mean, to see Aaron Rodgers, like we were talking about, 161 yards, 233 yards, 104 yards passing.
With everyone back at full health, it's crazy.
I don't care if you're playing the Patriots every week. Like, those numbers are unacceptable. So.
And let's remember how we feel right now, because the next 2 games are against the Giants and the Redskins, teams they should whoop up on. And so let's not forget these questions we have about this team. All right, one more from my end of a statement we thought we had figured out. We thought for many years Carson Wentz is a top quarterback in this league. He basically won the MVP a couple years ago before his injuries. And have the injuries played a significant part in who he is as a quarterback now? Because his numbers these past few weeks and the Eagles' offense overall have not been great. Yet this Eagles' offense is talented. The roster is talented. Now, they certainly have lacked explosive weapons that we talk about, it seems like, every single podcast. But even in the structure of a play where Carson Wentz is given good blocking, when he's given an open receiver, I'll be able to check down that might be 5 yards on the field. He's sailing passes right now. Is there an answer here of what has happened to Carson Wentz?
Yeah, there were some bad ones to Miles Sanders yesterday. It was like, come on, bro, just put it on him. But look, he is literally the worst quarterback this season in percentage of on-target throws per Pro Football Reference. The only guys, here's the guys he's grouped with: Mason Rudolph, Jameis Winston, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Fitzpatrick, Baker. Not good. Only 62% on target. Very bad. And the 2 things that I kind of think are attributing to that are 3 things. 1, yes, Wentz has not played well enough. He deserves some of the blame. 2, the injuries to those explosive players. For him yesterday, no Aguilar, no Jeffrey, no Djax, no Goddard earlier in the season. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has been nothing like we were hoping for as a rookie. Mac Hollins took 3 steps back from what he was as a rookie, getting no help other than his tight ends. And I think part of that is every throw is hard. You don't see anything easy in this Eagles offense, and that's reflected in, I think, their yards after the catch per reception. He's with Trubisky, Matt Ryan, Fitzpatrick, only guys averaging fewer than 4.5 yards after the catch per completion. You're never seeing receivers kind of getting the ball in space with room ahead to run. It's all kind of tight window throws he's having to make to Goddard and Ertz, which, hey, he can do it sometimes, but It's not an easy offense. He doesn't have the weapons, and he's also not playing much. It's a bad combination right now.
I think the loss of Frank Reich hurts a lot as well. I think the most impactful injuries are the offensive line pieces that Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, in and out all year. Then
Brandon Brooks exited.
They lost Brandon Brooks, who may have been more important than those two, actually. So it's just all a combination. But, yeah, like Ian said, he hasn't done himself any favors. Yesterday, like all of Philly media blaming the weather, and then you see Russell Wilson toss throws downfield with ease. Like Russell Wilson rattled off like 3 plays of 30-plus yards and made those underneath throws in the flats. So it's just Wentz hasn't looked good, the offense hasn't looked good, and overall, I am confident, like their backups, even though Andre Dillard was benched. I still think.
He was?
Yeah, yesterday he was benched mid-game.
Oh, no.
I thought that their backups were at least somewhat replacement level, right? But how can you even tell when you're supposed to be grabbing 10 backups and putting them in? Because then you're just starting backups now. You don't even have your starting lineup. It's just he's trying to make a lot happen, so I don't want to attribute all to him. But like I said, he certainly hasn't done himself any favors.
We don't talk enough about injury luck with good teams across the league that are consistent because it's such a major factor. The other factor is Doug Peterson, possibly, and I feel like Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright say this often, but they said we knew exactly what this team was going to run. We were calling out plays before the snap happened. And then this is like a small little detail, but if there were concerns about Carson Wentz coming out of North Dakota State, it was this tendency to really get grounded in the pocket. Like you see him and have this wide stance, and I believe it was Steven Ruiz on Twitter tweeted that he had like cement in his shoes. And it's something where we thought on a bad team with a bad offensive line, getting that locked into the pocket and not being able to move around and short, choppy feet, whatever you want to quarterback mechanics Twitter, it has come now into the point where it's become a detriment to his mobility, his big play, his accuracy, all of it. And so this little technical issue, and I'm no quarterback coach, but this little technical issue that you don't see anyone else across the league do successfully has now compounded itself into a negative result.
And it's not like he's been playing this bad all season. I remember even when they lost to the Vikings, he still had 3 or 4 plays that game where he, Houdini, like how the heck did he get away from that pressure, very accurate downfield throw, but especially recently, and I mean, particularly on Sunday, it's just hard to say many good things about the guy at the moment.
And obviously the Eagles have a plan coming into every season, and this was just not the plan offensively. It was not.
No.
So that's it for me, Daigle. Did you have any others you want to add?
Yeah, I had a couple more. Just that I've noticed the past 2 weeks. One in particular is and they've done this against very poor matchups, which was a concern heading into was a benefit heading into the second half of the season, but then they got a few chances against the Dolphins, didn't look good, but Sam Darnold and the Jets offense as a whole has looked better. And like I said, it's because they're playing teams that don't pressure the quarterback, so it certainly helps. But what they've done, to Adam Gase's credit, and he's deserved little credit this year, so we need to give it to him where it's due, and that he shortened the passing game as a whole, getting Ryan Griffin involved underneath. Jameson Crowder still leading this team in target share. Demaryius Thomas has become like a wide receiver 4 or 5 in fantasy because he's been dependable up until yesterday. And then that, of course, finally lent itself to open up Robbie Anderson slightly deeper. It still wasn't what we expected from Robbie Anderson, but now we can at least maybe go back to Robbie Anderson over these next 5 games in fantasy and in the fantasy playoffs because we have become a little more confident in that offense as a whole.
Yeah, Josh, I was talking to you on the pod we did on Sunday night about that Jets game, and yeah, Gase schemed up 3 to 5 plays that were like, hey, man, great job, got your receiver open and all that. And look, yeah, it has been against the Giants, the Redskins, the Raiders, but guess what? He's got the Bengals in week 13, the Dolphins in week 14, so we don't really need to worry about what he looks like against a great offense moving forward. But I think they've done a good job finding that happy marriage with Darnold where he's getting his 1-2 progression. If the guy's there, he's hitting them. And if not, he can go off script and do great Sam Darnold things. The guy's awesome when he's playing backyard football outside the pocket for small stretches. We see him make these boneheaded mistakes once or twice a game still. But, that is still when he's at his most dangerous sometimes. We see Anderson get loose downfield. So I think it's just finding that happy marriage between that, which, hey, this is only his, 8th start with Adam Gase. I mean, we shouldn't have necessarily expected them to just click from day one. So, yeah, it's been good to see progress.
He's always reminded me of Tony Romo. And Romo kind of had those similar criticisms at times where if you eliminate those 1 or 2 mistakes in every game, then he can be really successful. And I would say aesthetically, Sam Darnold isn't the most pleasing quarterback when before the ball is thrown, but once the ball is thrown, especially from clean pockets. Like I went back and watched that Redskins game last weekend, and he was like had 4 dart throws on touchdowns, and they were all from clean pockets. I'm assuming the same thing was against the Raiders. And I would say that the Jets' offensive line, even when healthy, is probably among the worst in the NFL.
Oh, it's miserable, yeah.
And they've dealt with injuries as well, so that should be a number one thing that team and Joe Douglas should add on to as the offseason goes along. But this whole thing about, and I don't even know if it was a talking point, but questioning if Sam Darnold was the answer. He's 21 years old, right? Or 22 years old. And already what he's showing is enough to hang your hat on as we move forward.
Oh, absolutely. I think, yes, they got N'Keal Harry involved just a little bit yesterday, but I think the Patriots offense is much worse than what we expected heading into the year. I don't know if I attribute it so much to, we've talked about it being protection.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put all of like Tom Brady's woes on Isaiah Wynn's shoulders, because it seems like even getting that one player back, he should still be performing at a higher level. And it may be recency bias because they haven't played a clean weather game in 8 full quarters now. So maybe we don't know anything. But it's the fact that the Patriots offense still has struggled. And they added Sanu, yes, and he may miss another week. But with the backup pieces even, it's just not what we expected coming into the year.
Well, I believe, Ian, this kind of goes into a topic that you wanted to talk about who playing quarterback with the Patriots, and even if it's Matt. Like, again, I don't want to put in my bias here, and I'll let you ask the question, but I feel like you're totally off base already.
Yeah, so I mean, I was watching the Sunday night game last night, and I was just thinking, like Jimmy Garoppolo, is he playing any worse than Tom Brady has this year? I just sent out a poll on Twitter. I was like, how many wins would the Patriots have if Jimmy Garoppolo was their QB? 48% said 10 or more, which is how many they have now. And it got me thinking, all right, well, how much worse could we go? So Patriots are 10-1. Is there any quarterback that has started a game this season that we think the Patriots would not be at least 6-5 with? Now, I've gone through the guys that, like, the worst of the worst. And, so we're thinking someone like Josh Rosen, Luke Falk, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Finley, Dwayne Haskins. Mason Rudolph.
This is an absolutely ludicrous opinion.
One of these guys starts all 11 games for the Patriots. Do you think they finish at 500 or above?
They would be 500 with Brian Hoyer.
You guys are ludicrous.
What?
I mean, Tom Brady's not playing like that bad.
No, he's not playing that bad. I agree.
He's not.
Their offense has been a bottom 10 offense.
I would not attribute that to Tom Brady.
No.
And in fact, among their list of concerns as we head into January and February, Tom Brady is not even close to the top for me.
He's not exactly elevating him out of the dumpster, though. That's what I'm saying.
There's a major difference, though, in having a quarterback who is rarely making a mistake versus bringing in someone like a Mason Rudolph, bringing in someone like a Jameis Winston, who is going to tank your team with turnovers. There is such a difference between maybe not, executing big plays over and over and over again, but not making mistakes and still allowing your offense to score enough points versus basically giving the opposing team points, which is what a lot of quarterbacks who have started a game this year would do.
Well, all right, let's talk about making sure you get enough points, because the Patriots have only allowed more than 14 points in one game this season. So Brady, they're averaging 27 points per game.
When the Ravens game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
When they went from Brady to Castle in 07-08, they lost 10 points per game on that. So let's say Brady's playing still just best of his career. Even if we take away 10 points from this Patriots team, they're averaging 17 per game. They're still, should be beating these opponents. And I think if we just look back at their schedule, not so much recently, they played Dak, Wentz, Lamar, and Baker last 4 games, but in that first stretch of the season, they got an injured Big Ben, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Luke Falk, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Colt McCoy, Daniel Jones. I mean, it's no wonder their defense teed off like this because of how soft their opening season schedule is.
This is so wild.
You don't think they can go 6-5 with Brian Hoyer?
No, this is so wild because you're talking about giving up points. You know what also gives up points? Turnovers inside your own 30-yard line. That's giving up points. And when Daniel Jones is out there fumbling 11 times in 4 games, when you're seeing Jameis Winston throw pick sixes, yes. Like Matt Schaub starting a football game this year, there is a major difference once again in just protecting the football, not making mistakes, making the right read. Maybe there aren't any open wide receivers, but again, just allowing your defense not to be in a disadvantageous position. And Tom Brady has done that wonderfully this year.
I just think it's an interesting question because we always talk about, I don't think any of us disagree, but quarterback is by far the most position in sports, in any sport probably. But we have a team with the by far greatest coach, with one of the best defenses we have ever seen that consistently, puts their players in a position to succeed. Now, if we handcuff them with the worst quarterback in the league, what would happen? I think they still get above 500. I don't think they go 10-1.
No.
But 6-5. I think the Vegas over/under should be comfortably at 5.5 to 6.5. And I think if you think it should be that much lower, like what with Brian Hoyer, do you think Belichick just goes 3-8? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. I just don't want a quarterback who turns the football over and loses to the Miami Dolphins.
Well, you're strapped with one right now. So how many games do you think they win?
I don't know. I really don't. All that I'm telling you is this, and let me repeat it. Tom Brady is the least of my worries on this Patriots team right now.
I'm not debating that. I'm debating if
You are, because you're basically saying that Tom Brady is not irrelevant, but is only adding 4 wins to this football team.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Sure, I would say he's adding like 7 or 8 wins to this football team.
That's where we disagree.
They drop off from Tom Brady to Brian Hoyer. I'm not talking statistically, passing yards, touchdowns, whatever.
Right.
Turnovers. Turnovers are a difference, right? And Tom Brady doesn't turn the football over.
Tom Brady made an incredible play on 3rd and 20, actually got away from some pressure and hit Edelman. But let's not pretend like he's just constantly going off script and putting this offense on his back. I know, no turnovers. I heard you the first 5 times. But
I don't know why Brian Hoyer's now suddenly become
he's the guy you're going with.
Does Brian Hoyer really turn the ball over like that much more in this script? Yeah, but that was Colt's scheme. Like in this scheme, and with practice under Bill
Y'all are
Belichick,
wild. I cannot believe this.
Does he really turn the ball over that much? If it's like, as someone who had to watch Dwayne Haskins yesterday.
So is Brian Hoyer the one you're going with? Because you said basically any quarterback that's starting. That's the point I'm making, because Ryan Finley's up there.
Yeah, no,
Ryan Finley would turn the ball over more. I know for a fact. Mason Rudolph would 100% turn the ball over more.
But I think we're also saying, like, we're not just taking this quarterback we're not taking Ryan Finley out of Cincinnati and saying, hey, like, you're starting now.
Dude, the player is the player.
Yeah, but he gets the coaching and the scheme.
No, the player is the player.
Do you remember when the Patriots,
NFL quarterback.
do you remember when Brady was out and and Garoppolo got hurt and Brissett started a game and he threw like 3 passes?
But Jacoby Brissett is different than Tom Brady. Like, he's different than Ryan Finley, too.
I would say, we're saying that Jacoby Brissett is different than Ryan Finley.
I'm saying that Belichick, more than any other coach in the league, treats every single game like its own season. He changes his scheme on both sides of the ball to fit that.
This is why I said Brian Hoyer, because if we're talking player for player, like Brian Hoyer is a player, I feel like you can stick back there with Belichick, and we've seen it, and it'll be fine. Whereas you cannot stick Ryan Finley underneath Bill Belichick.
Same question with the 49ers. How do you feel?
Of what? Jimmy Garoppolo to someone else?
In Kyle Shanahan's scheme?
Yes.
Same
question.
You know what? I've been critical of Jimmy Garoppolo this year, and I think some of it's warranted. 2 red zone interceptions in other games. But I think right now he's hitting his stride with that team. I think he's playing quite well. But I don't know, man. I also think the offensive scheme for Kyle Shanahan, and right now Kyle Shanahan is a better creative play caller than Josh McDaniels is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're both really up there.
I just can't believe we spent 5 minutes on this question. It's not more than that. I mean, I feel like you just wanted to have an opportunity to take a shot at Tom.
Look, Tom he averaged 5.1 yards per attempt yesterday, and he's got more success than any other quarterback that's ever going to play the game in all likelihood. But I'm just saying, like, he said it himself. The defense and special teams are the strength of the Patriots. I'm taking Tom's own statement and saying how much of their success is due to those teams.
It's pretty admirable to say that.
Okay, let's just move on. Daigle, let's hit on your waivers.
Let's hit on waivers.
Because the waiver period right now is important as we're hitting the playoff stretch of fantasy
football. Some people may even be in it already.
Yep, and for many people, for most, it's just 1 week left in the season. Let's start off with Rashaad Penny. 14 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. This is an interesting one, right, Daigle? Because Chris Carson has been dominating the backfield. Chris Carson also has 7 or 8 fumbles on the season. I believe that's the most since Adrian Peterson, since like 10 years ago. And then Rashaad Penny, when Chris Carson fumbled, I believe basically twice in a row, saw the most volume and was explosive in his opportunities.
I believe it's 7 fumbles, and we've already gone back to Carson after fumbles once this year. Pete Carroll did, and they rode him hard. But his leash can only be so long, and now to do that again yesterday, and whether that fumble was his fault or not, maybe it was the handoff, whatever the case, the fact is he couldn't afford another mistake.
First one was definitely his fault.
Yeah, and he couldn't afford another mistake, and he made 2 more mistakes. So I would imagine that it is the Rashaad Penny show, at least in the timeshare the rest of the season, which not only kills Chris Carson's value because he's much less explosive than Penny, but Penny played a season high 49% of their snaps yesterday. So even in a timeshare, we've seen what Penny can do in limited fashion like he did last season. So he now suddenly becomes a flex option for the rest of the year, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think Penny's gotten this reputation of like he's not been good, but it's just more Carson's been so much better that they haven't taken Carson off the field. I mean, as a rookie, Penny was averaging 4.9 yards per carry. I know he's not the same success rate type guy like Carson where he's consistently getting the good gains, but he's explosive. We saw that yesterday, and I mean, he said the trick to his success has been stopping eating McDonald's, which was kind of funny. But hey,
see, it's funny how that works out.
He looks explosive, and at the very least, I think it's going to be a time.
I remember he trained with, I believe he went and trained with LaDainian Tomlinson this offseason as well.
Love it.
Whatever that means for fantasy, I have no idea.
This is vital, though, right? Because so many people that are going to make the fantasy playoffs have Chris Carson in their lineups. Yeah. Right now, we're recording on Monday morning, and we're not exactly sure how this backfield is going to fall out from here. But if Chris Carson goes from, I'm just guessing here, like 80% of the workload down to 60% of the workload, that could be a massive difference for these people in their lineups.
Since we spent 10 minutes already arguing about replacement players, like if Carson was with the Patriots, he'd be healthy scratched every Sunday. Like he's averaging 3.5 yards per carry.
Y'all are wild today. What is going on?
He's like one of the least inefficient backs. Like, of course,
he's one of the biggest freak athletes in the league. He should be playing linebacker.
He is better in reality because he can bowl people over. But no. He'd be healthy scratch for the Patriots because his fumbling.
I mean, he's a much better player than Sony Michel.
There have been better players who have been healthy scratch for the Patriots.
Let's keep it going.
One last thing real quick. Panthers in Week 15, Cardinals in Week 16 for the Seahawks backfield.
Please, Chris Carson, get 80% from my fantasy teams. I appreciate you.
Please, Rashaad Penny get so Josh's
with the Lockett
teams
and Russell Wilson stacks.
Okay, so let's go to another one.
A healthy scratch.
Healthy scratch for the Patriots. He absolutely would be.
I'm glad you guys are sitting on that side. I'm going to move further.
Dress the same as well. I don't know if you heard.
My question was rational. I don't know what this is.
Benny Snell is another name. I talk about replaceable players. 21 carries for 98 yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jalen Samuels with James Conner out. In many cases, we expected Jalen Samuels to get a workhorse role because we've seen that in the past. Mm-hmm. It did not happen. Daigle, are we really going to walk down this path again with another replaceable talent like we did in this very podcast with names like Ty Johnson, J.D. McKissick, Brian Hill, maybe even a Patrick Laird? Are we going to throw Benny Snell's name in there as well?
I feel like you're blaming the 2019 waiver season on me. It's been the worst season ever for waivers, and it's been my first year to write the column. So imagine now my thought process trying to figure this out every week. It's driven me insane as I'm yelling right now on the podcast. So yes, we're going to do this again because that's all it's been all year.
Why?
It's been the worst waiver season ever, and it's been my responsibility to sort it all out. And I would think, it sounds like James Conner may miss another week, and if that's the case, I need to dive into further reports. I have heard that Jalen Samuels, for whatever reason, was in the doghouse, in Tomlin's doghouse. What does that even mean? What did he do? I don't know, but there's a reason why one of their most explosive players only got 5 or 6 touches yesterday and wasn't used efficiently in the passing game as he has been as the team starter. Benny Snell, as we know, college box score at Kentucky, amazing. College athletic profile, awful. Like one of the least athletic running backs in the entire league. That's why I don't even care for his performance as a pro player. Yeah. However, when you get 22 touches in the 2019 season, you pop up.
We're not doing this again.
You pop up.
It was 22 touches against the league's probably single worst rush defense.
And he didn't eclipse 100 yards, yes.
We're probably not going to see the Steelers working from ahead like that many more times. And
they were behind a lot in that game.
Right. Like even staying in games, I guess is a better way to say it. But my biggest takeaway from the Steelers' backfield this season is that for once we don't know what's happening. It used to be if Le'Veon was suspended or out, we knew whoever the backup was, whether it was Ridley, Williams, or Connor, they were getting this full-time role. And that's just not the case anymore. Whether it's been Samuels, Trey Edmonds, Benny Snell.
Kareth White was involved yesterday. Explosive.
So I don't know. I mean, this week it works Snell, but am I confident Snell's going to get another 15 touches next week? Not really.
I'm not either. I'll explain in the waiver wire column as well. But I would say what gives me a little more confidence that James Conner's out is that Devlin Hodges gives them hope. Like actually gives their offense. It makes them slightly more encouraging, whereas Mason Rudolph was that bad that I have to talk about Hodges.
Ducks fly together.
Once again, I will stand with the stance. That is.
Well, then I'm sure you're going to love the next one, Josh, so let's get to it.
Do not pick up below average football players on bad football teams. And Benny Snell fits that. And maybe.
Unless it's the 2019 season.
Russell Gage fits that. Another name you want to talk about. 10 targets yesterday, 8 catches, 76 yards against the Tampa Bay Bucks secondary. A secondary that is among the worst in the NFL.
Right.
This passing attack for the Falcons has been good all season long, despite them being a bad football team. Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones. I believe Julio missed some time yesterday, and Russell Gage was the beneficiary because of it.
Yes, Russell Gage plays 64 snaps, 10 targets, and the fact is now they have a short turnaround on Thanksgiving against the Saints defense, who also have a short turnaround to get Marshawn Lattimore healthy. So if both of those injuries play out for fantasy purposes positively, then you're basically starting Russell Gage as a wide receiver 3 as soon as this week.
Oh my god.
What's wrong with that? If Julio Jones is out for whatever reason,
I don't know if I can do it.
I can't say anything nice about Russell Gage, so I'm just not going to say anything at all.
All right.
career
Read more in the column if you want
He's a career
positivity.
special teamer.
Let's end this one with Darrell Williams, the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. We know the Chiefs are on a bye this week, I believe.
No, they were on a bye last week.
They're on a bye last week.
Bye weeks
That's
are
what
over.
I meant. They were coming off
okay.
a bye,
Sorry.
and then they're going
Bye weeks
forward
are
no
over.
longer on a bye.
Time to
But-
work harder than ever.
So there's not any new information here, but we've seen that Damian Williams has missed time this year. LaShawn McCoy has missed time this year. But when Darrell Williams goes in the ball game, this offense can still function with him in there. And I guess it's the time of the calendar where we should have more exposure to the Chiefs offense.
Damian Williams exited with a rib injury
Yeah, I
or
think it
knee
was
injury?
rib.
Yeah, ribs before the bye week. LaShawn McCoy exited with a concussion before the bye week, and we don't have any updates. We didn't get any updates while they were gone. But I just wanted to bring this up as a reminder to everyone that in week 3, Darrell Williams finished as RB14. Week 4, Darrell Williams finished as RB12. Like, he has 2 top 15 performances. And as we sit here weekly on Mondays arguing about which bad running backs to pick up in bad offenses, Darrell Williams is kind of a sneaky good running back playing with Patrick Mahomes. It makes it much easier if the other 2 injuries shake out. And if even only one of them are out between Williams and McCoy, Damian and McCoy, Darrell Williams can still fill in confidently
I agree.
as a flex option.
I agree.
Yeah, I think also keep an eye on Tyreek Hill and that hammy, because we did see some of Darrell's bigger receiving performances come early in the year without Tyreek. I'm with you. I mean, yeah, give me 10 to 12 touches in the Chiefs offense over Benny Snell.
And we've been seeing him get red zone usage, goal line usage as well at times. It's
Always in on the 2-minute drill.
Yeah, I would much rather attach myself to a decent football player on a good football team.
I don't know who wrote the blurb out of our Rotoworld team, but someone said Darrell Williams is the most complete back on the Chiefs, even if he's not the most explosive with the ball in his hands. And I think that's right. He can do
actually a pretty good one.
He can do everything, but he's not as good as Damian or Shady. But who cares? He's on the Chiefs offense.
It's a good thing I don't write the waiver column, Daigle, because it would just be, hey, this guy's on a good football team, this guy's on a bad football team, and rank it in that order.
Well, you act like there's so many just good running backs that Daigle's ignoring that are on good teams.
I'm sure there's a replacement for the waiver wire column somewhere out there. We're never going to find out.
I was just saying I would not be as good at it as you. That was a compliment.
I'm Tom Brady. I'm taking us to the Super Bowl.
I'm trying to end this controversial podcast by giving you, some love.
You know what you should do? You should tell them about our schedule this upcoming week, because we have a crazy Thanksgiving schedule.
Well, for us, it's
oh yeah,
crazy, but
it'll
for
sound
them,
normal for them.
it's
Like
not.
us, it's all just compacted into 2 days.
Yeah, so Wednesday morning,
48 hours
we're
are gonna
gonna
go
have-
crazy.
Wednesday morning, we're going to have a 3 preview podcast of the Thanksgiving Day slate. Be sure to look for that on your feeds.
Us
and then
3.
Thursday, it'll just be me and Daigle breaking down 6 games
Audio
from
only.
Sunday, audio only. Sorry about that. Now you want to see Daigle's lovely dome. And that's it.
alike.
That's it. That's what the show is going to be this week. We thank you so much for listening. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button, rating, and reviewing. Hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. So for Ian, for John, I'm Josh. Talk to y'all soon. See ya. Y'all are so weird.
I did the same one.
Did you really?
Yes.